They just go with the flow. It's the Hershey and Keegs Show.
Welcome to Hershey and the Keegs Show, starring pitcher Mark Hirschman and his personal catcher, Mike Keegan. Every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. live from the Governor's Comedy Club radio studio. Thanks so much for listening.
Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is Tuesday night, 9 p.m., January 21st. You know what that means?
What does it mean?
It's the new golden age of America.
That's right.
Is it? Those I drew of Genie. I don't think that was YMCA.
I think you were going to just pop out of a bottle just now. Yeah.
Oh my good! What a glorious day! It's the golden age of America.
You know what? We're going to let you have your little.
Let me have my thing.
Listen, this
God
was
bless this country.
as far as the weekends go. Let's put aside whatever comedy you had going on. Your president gets elected. God bless you.
Yeah.
And your team wins a valiant game.
What a game with the Bills! Exactly.
I mean,
oh my goodness!
And I played the Bills, so obviously I was super excited for you.
Yeah, I thought they were going to blow it at the end there.
Luckily, man, but
luckily Mark Anderson was eating popcorn on the sidelines.
So what you said that I missed that. What was that all about? The popcorn thing.
He fumbled the ball and then he missed the ball. He had butter on his fingers.
Okay, I got you.
They say, hey, there's all butterfingers.
Yeah,
he
you know what?
The ball, he's got butter fingers.
I feel like
they put butter on popcorn when you go to the movie theater.
Yeah. Yeah. I felt badly for him. I really did.
As a Bills fan, I felt badly for him too. Yeah. I actually like Mark Andrews, but I'm glad the Bills won.
Yeah, congratulations.
You know what? I was going into this week thinking, you know what? I'm more afraid of the Ravens than I am of the Chiefs.
Right.
So I think I'm
right.
very
so you're
confident.
good.
I mean, I'd rather them be playing at home like they were this week.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty confident against the Chiefs unless the refs.
Congratulations. I'm excited for you. We are scheduled to have former Met pitcher Nelson Figueroa on the show. So we're waiting for Figgy to show up. Tone, just, in the event that he actually does show up, can we go ahead and run the first set of sponsors? Do you mind if we do that real quick? Is that okay?
I don't mind at all.
Yeah. Okay. So you just give me the point and I'll go ahead and start. And thank you. The Hershey and Keegs Show. Turn Mike's mic off so there's no snickering. Hershey and Keegs Show is proudly sponsored by Demolition Specialists. 1-855-RIP-OUTS, the number you call for demolition, dumpsters, and fence rental. Family owned and operated for over 30 years. They are a fully licensed demolition contractor. Angela's Bra Boutique at 223 Main Street in Farmingdale. 516-249-6509. Personalized bra fittings providing a wide selection of brands, sizes, and styles. We are brought to you by Triple M Professional Painting and Construction. 516-395-6390. Family owned and operated for over 35 years. Call for your free estimate today and ask for James. Impressions Dance Studio. Reach them at 516-735-0545. Take life by the hand and dance. 3103 North Jerusalem Road in Levittown, www.impressionsdancestudio.com, and of course, Sunray Services. Now is the best time to convert to hybrid heating and cooling. Call them today at 631-231-5533 or visit them online at www.sunrayservices.com. That concludes our first half of sponsors. I do want to make a little bit of an announcement, though, regarding our sponsor, Triple M Professional Painting and Construction, owned and operated by my friend James Nocerino, who has been in Disney with his wife and his kids for the last few days. And as you guys may have seen me post, their dog, Cooper, was at a family friend's house in Seaford, and Cooper escaped out of the backyard, out of the relative's yard, and has been missing for 2 days, and it's been bedlam. I was on a search. I had friends out on a search. You saw him. You were there. You did a little bit of searching.
For several days.
And the bottom line is everyone's been in a total panic, and from what I understand, James has been unable to enjoy himself while his wife and kids do their best to enjoy themselves, which hasn't been working out that well. And we just got news a little while ago that Cooper has been found.
Ah, God bless.
Cooper has been found. Little Cooper was hiding under a thorn bush in a field near the East Broadway School in Seaford, Levittown.
Who hasn't?
So, right.
We found you there one
Right.
time.
We've caught you under a thorn bush. And
so Cooper, was it his family's friends, like his dog family?
So it wasn't Cooper's friends. It was the No Sereno family's friends. Family. It was their family. It was aunt and uncle or whatever.
I thought the dog went to go visit.
The dog went to some friends, and and it went awry. Yeah. But bottom line is, it was very scary, and part of the rescue team happened to be another one of our sponsors that we'll get to in a little bit. But
Real
you know very well,
Diane Keegan?
It was not, but it was Anthony from New View Construction, who was part of the rescue operation.
Nice.
Which I'll get to in a little bit. But it's been it was a little bit of a tumultuous couple of days. We were all searching and posting and crying, and now that
I haven't slept.
The sad tears turned to happy ones, and the bottom line is Cooper is back home and everything is good. So there. Do I have a thumbs up from you yet, Tony? From alrighty. Right. So we'll go ahead and you two talk amongst yourself for a second while I go ahead and
I will tell you, we were all together last night. Tone was there. We had the governor's annual holiday party.
Tell us about it.
What an evening that was. They always do it right here. Thank you, Laura, James, Andrea. We had a great time last night. The whole family was here.
So in typical form,
Mark was here till all hours of the night.
I saw Mikey early on because that's usually when I see him, because that's when I'm here. And I said to Mikey, I'm like, yeah, you know me, I'll do the old Irish exit. I certainly want to make my presence felt, and but you won't see me before too long. Yeah. And you're like, I probably same thing. Maybe 9:15. You know, maybe I'll have a glass of wine and whatever. So I just get into the theater. The what is this called now? A studio.
The studio.
This is a studio, not a theater.
Not a theater,
right?
You can consider it a theater.
And I said to Mike, I said, when did you get home? You're like 9:30. I'm like 9:30. What 1:30? 1:30.
And to be like I just told you, like, I wasn't eating, I wasn't drinking, I was just like hanging out.
Yeah.
You know, and it was a good time. We saw Tone here. Said Mark, you were on a mission. Mark comes in, makes sure he gets into 3 pictures.
Yeah.
Grabs a cookie and leaves.
Yeah. I didn't even, I didn't even have a cookie because the food was probably coming out soon after. And the bottom line was this: we had people over for the Notre Dame game. I don't always do so well in those socially crowded type of events. I have some social anxieties, but I also wanted to show the respect for the club that they deserve, which is, that's they're part of our family, and I'm appreciative of Mr. Dolce and Mr. Carletto and governors. So certainly, while I would have liked to stay in bed, cuddled under the blankets, I showed my face, came out, shook some hands, took a couple of pictures, and then I was back home eating Stacy's ziti at 8:45.
Hey, whoa, it's a family show.
Yeah, I also had dinner. Hey-o! Yeah.
All right.
I got to see Tony. I got to see.
Tony, you know what? Here. Me and Don Sill were dancing.
I mean, listen,
the YMCA.
you know what? I certainly, I think I did a good job last night of basically finding the people that I really wanted to talk to and talking to for a few minutes.
That's why you were here for 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
There were 2 people.
No.
And they're
you
both
know what?
here right now.
I will tell you. I got to speak to Don Sill, who's I think a wonderful human being.
Always a pleasure seeing Don Sill.
Leslie Deegan.
He was the first person I saw.
Yeah, that was his first time ever here at the governor's.
He's still here. He's still here.
He's here. Well, he's cleaning up.
Speaking of cleaning up, you see Nutman was here. Did you see Nutman?
I didn't see Nut.
Oh, he got here a little bit late. He might have left after you left. Nutman was here with Jessica's daughter and his son.
Oh, I didn't see any of the Nuts. So
and then Ozzy was here. Ozzy came later on.
So we'll talk more about that later. But with no further ado, we have our guest here, Mr. Nelson Figueroa. As soon as Tony pops him up, we'll see Figgy up there.
Yeah, give me a second, but you guys can talk to him.
All right, thanks, Tony.
Hello there, Nelly. How are you, my friend?
What's going on, boys?
How you doing?
Thanks so much for coming on, man.
Yeah, we're really happy to have you. We have a full plate of things to go over with you, so certainly lock in and get ready.
My pleasure.
Listen, the bottom line is Nelson Figueroa has been on the New York scene for quite a while. He is now currently working for WPIX. He was on SNY. He was a pitcher for the Mets and for several other teams in the major leagues. So we are certainly honored to have him. But the first thing that I want to touch on with Nelly is a little time in your life when you went to the Mark Twain Middle School. Tell us a little bit about that, first of all.
Yeah, I think that's the beginning of looking forward to bigger and better things in life. I grew up, of course, in the projects in Coney Island.
Yep.
And an oasis in the projects in Coney Island, of course, is Mark Twain Junior High School for the gifted and talented.
Yeah.
Right.
So as a kid, as soon as you're getting out of elementary school, you start looking at junior high schools. It was one of the most sought after places to be. And it was right in my backyard, literally a 5-block walk for me. From home. So it was a great opportunity to be exposed to a lot of things that otherwise I might not have been able to be exposed to. And one of my biggest influences in my life, Hector Ramirez, who was a teacher there, gym teacher there, just set me on the right path. Just the way that he conducted himself as a disciplinary, a guy who loved sports, taught sports a great way, great coach. And I wound up being one of my great friends throughout the rest of my life after junior high school.
Well, speaking of great friends, we do have regards from one of your Mark Twain Middle School classmates. Do you remember a young lady who at the time was named Anne Marie Flam, and now she's Anne Marie Flam Savini?
Yes,
you do. Yeah.
Yeah, she was an athletics talent just like I was.
Yep. So Anne Marie is I don't know if you know the kind of geographics of here, but Levittown is where we're located here, the Governor's Comedy Club, and I happen to live in Levittown, and Mike, my partner over here, lives in a neighboring town, East Meadow. But Anne Marie and her husband and her 2 kids also live in Levittown. Our kids have gone to school together, and when I posted 2 weeks ago that we had booked you on the show, she's like, "Figgy, tell him I said hello." I'm like, "What? You know Figgy?" And I guess you guys go back a long way, huh?
Yeah. She was one of the best athletes that we had in our athletics department. She was one of the girls that could keep up with the boys in all the sports as well.
You know what? I didn't know that, and that probably is a testament to her humility that she has never told me that, but she and her husband Chris are good people, and their kids are great people as well. So she speaks super highly of you, and she was, I don't know how many episodes of the last 3 years of Herschy and the Keegs that she's watched, but I can tell you that she's going to watch this one for sure. So she'll love that. How are you? How are things? I mean, the bottom line is you've been on this scene for so long, and the transition that you've made over the years from Major League Baseball pitcher to now being a TV personality. How has that transition gone for you, and are you as happy as you thought you might be in post-baseball retirement?
Yeah, when you get towards the end of your career, you start thinking, right, what can you possibly do that's going to top what was your childhood dream? And it was going to be very tough to top it. Of course, getting a chance to play for the team I rooted for as a kid and playing in Shea Stadium and then playing, of course, Citi Field, it was a dream come true. But I, start getting to the point where, okay, what's my skill set? What else can I do? Because that window of opportunity and that window of a professional athlete's career is very small in the game of life, right? So I was very blessed. Towards the end of my career, I played in the WBC and did some really, I guess, good interviews that, sparked the interest of different organizations like SNY, MLB Network, even some ESPN traction. And so they asked me as I got towards the end of my career, have you thought about giving television a chance? And, at the time I hadn't thought much of it. I thought I was going to go into coaching. But I also knew I needed a little bit of time away from coaching. It was too raw. I always felt like in the beginning, like maybe I could still play, even though I was 40 years old already, I couldn't still play. But it was always in the back of my head that I would always try to fight as long as I could to keep a uniform on. And so coaching would have been another way, another, avenue to continue chasing that dream and getting a world championship. So I still have those dreams and aspirations to this day. It's still, it's one of those things that I think about. But at the same time, broadcasting it seemed like it was going to be a natural fit. And the truth of it all, of course, is that it was a lot harder than it looks. You guys, learned that throughout your productions. It's easy to sit there and say, oh, I would have said this, or I think that, or whatever it is, and then the cameras turn on, and you're trying to figure out a way to express these things to, current athletes who are playing. For me, it was guys that were my contemporaries, guys that I played with and against with the Mets. So I was going to have to talk about them. I was going to have to explain it to a kid who just started playing baseball. I was going to have to explain it to, man, woman, and child in a way that didn't seem like too over the top, but at the same time, not so elementary that it was like, oh man, this guy doesn't even know what he's talking about. So I do think that, it took a little while to get going. I remember in the beginning in Twitter, Jerry Seinfeld booed me. Even before I got the job. Once it got announced that I got the job, before even seeing me, he booed me because he was, Team Bobby Ojeda, and rightfully so. Bobby Ojeda was great at this, and so, it was watching guys like Bobby Ojeda make the transition, watching guys like Ron Darling, and just the way that they, put their own experiences into each and everything, and at the same time, I think my greatest asset is that I failed. I wasn't always a success, and so it's easier for me to relate when there's guys having a tough time playing, especially in New York. It's not an easy place to play. I played in Philadelphia where they booed Santa Claus. So I know how it is to be booed by fans. And, you wake up the next day, you shake it off, and you go back out there and you give it your best again, because those boos can turn to cheers, in 24 hours. So I think that was something that I could relate to and I could express in a way that, guys that came after me, like Pedro Martinez, he couldn't express it that way, because what failure did he have? He didn't make the All-Star team. That was,
right.
So I think that was one of the things that endeared me a lot to fans, and especially to Met fans, because I shared their passion when the team lost, but I wasn't a shock jock and would just be like, oh, he's just terrible. No, the guy's not terrible. He had a bad game. He's going through a bad stretch. Did you know that his wife is 8 months pregnant, and, he left for spring training and hasn't seen her since, and she's dealing with 2 other kids? Do you know how that is every day and night, that you're worried about that more so than you're 0 for 4? It's not that you don't care, but in the list of things, in the priorities in your life, that's really kind of low down on it when you're playing a game. You want to have success, but sometimes it just doesn't happen. You don't want to give that as an excuse, but somebody like myself who's lived it, I can turn around and be like, hey, you know what? You've got to kind of give this guy a little bit of time, give him a little bit of space. And those are the kind of things that I think I was able to get out of some of the players that other guys wouldn't, or moments that I could explain things in a different way that wasn't just a typical, oh, he's, 1 for his last 22, he sucks. I think that's the easy way, right? When you look at just the numbers, it's more about when you have the experience of playing the game and playing the game for a long time at a very high level, that all those different things come into play, and it helps me be a much better analyst than if I just was reading stats off of paper.
Well, interestingly enough, you mentioned Seinfeld, and my partner over here, Keegs, is doing a big comedy show in 2 weeks with
Nice.
Kenny Banya from Seinfeld, the character Kenny Banya, Steve Heinert, his name is, and I can tell you that when me and Mike have him on the show, we will be speaking about this episode, right, Mike, to make sure that he gets word to Seinfeld that we are not happy with him speaking negatively about our guy Nelly.
But he came around.
I'm just saying, I'm sure he came around,
Yeah.
But it was really funny, because it was the first day that he wrote it, and I didn't have Twitter. I was told about it from the PR person at SNY, and I signed up for Twitter just because he had said, boo about Figueroa, and I wrote, my very first post was, "Dear Mr. Seinfeld, you've got me feeling like an 87 Met right now."
Nice.
And he wrote back, Team Figgy all the way. And so that was like my instant dive into Twitter. And it's one thing to, I'm not one of these people that just goes out there and reposts just the positive things. The mean tweets isn't exactly my thing either, because I'm a Brooklyn kid, so I've got a little bit of a sense of pride, and I've got
bite there.
Right, you got to swallow it sometimes and say, you know what, he's right. I messed up that. I fumbled my words, and I was writing back to people that, like, Gary Apple was like, no, just block them all. You don't want that negativity. And I said, I'm a New Yorker. I don't live for that negativity.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like,
You're a Brooklyn kid.
I think that's one of the things that I found that was a lot more rewarding for me because it was like I would want it told to me anyway. Like, just keep it real with me. Like, what is it that I'm doing that I could get better at? And this one guy was like, yeah, you were just fumbling your words and you can't read the teleprompter. And I go, hey, newsflash, I don't get a teleprompter. Like, I get asked a question. They tell me I've got 45 seconds to answer this question. So if I say, hey, there are 5 things that the Mets did wrong today that led to them losing, and Gary Apple would be like, so tell us about some of those things. And here in my head, I'm still counting down 30, 29, 28. And they literally will get in your ear. You know how it is. Start to rap. And I'm like, okay, first of all, don't say rap because I start to think I got to spit a verse. Then I get to 5 seconds. Give me 4. How about 3, 2? And I'm like, dude, don't count back in my ear while I'm trying to get across a point because now all of a sudden I'm like, what happened in that 6th inning, 5th inning, 4th inning, 3rd? Stop counting. Don't count on me. I had to get used to all those things and how to block it out and like kind of know that I had some time and be able to kind of go into it. And then I learned, of course, working with somebody like Gary Apple, who's had worked with 3 or 4 other guys before. He has his own cadence. I have my own cadence. And just the way that we got to being able to say, hey, you know what, 5 things happened today. And he would say, tell us about those things. And I go, well, I'll give you the first 2. And I would start with the first 2. And then he would come back again and be like, so what's another thing? And then I could go back and forth rather than me trying to spit out all 5 in 45 seconds and fumbling my words and trying to figure out, oh, damn, that's not what I really wanted to say. Let me go back and explain that a little bit better. Oh, well, my 45 seconds was up already. And so that's what they always say is that the attention span is smaller. It's 45 seconds or less that you want to get your main point across and then be able to come back and maybe explain it a little further.
Write that down, Mark. 45 seconds or less.
45 seconds or less. And it's funny, though, because Mike and I were talking before the show, and our discussion was that we're both maniacal sports fans. So we've been, watching for 30, 40 years between us easily, or I should say me 40 and you 30. And we thought that your transition from baseball player to media guy was as smooth as anyone. I mean, even like Tom Brady started recently, and they're murdering him still, and I happen to think he's doing a good job. But
I thought Figgy was great right away.
Yeah,
kind of seamless. But
we thought that you definitely made an incredible transition. This is going to be a little bit of a tough question for you, and I think you're going to be biased because of the fact that you are a New Yorker. But you were a Philly, you were a Met, you were an Astro, you were a Pittsburgh Pirate, you were a Brewer, you were a Diamondback. Can you really compare, anything to your experience at Shea, Citi Field, to anything? I mean, I know that's, again, probably a tough question for you to ask, but give us a little idea about where you love playing the most and why.
Yeah, I think, one of the things is that I was very blessed and fortunate to play all over the world for 19 years. And I mean, when I say all over the world, I was in Taiwan,
China,
and, Mexico, Dominican Republic. So, when you get to play in a place like Shea Stadium, which growing up, you're realizing the magnitude, the sound, how big it is, the fans, the roar of the crowd, all those things, it's just amplified, right? And now you get there, and I was there for the last year of Shea, and then all of a sudden we open up Citi Field, and it's just a brand new, beautiful place. And, you're one of the first people to pitch on that mound even. And in fact, I have the first complete game shutout in Citi Field history, and that's something that it's very endearing to me because I was able to make the most of that opportunity. I didn't have a lot of opportunity, but I made the most of that one. Yeah. I think for me, it's of course it's your hometown club because that's where you saw yourself as you did the backyard game, 3-2 bottom of the 9th World Series kind of thing. But I do think like places like Philadelphia, where again, when you play there as a hometown or a home club or as a visitor, it's a different experience.
Oh yeah, sure.
But there were times when I was in the old Veterans Stadium that even the home team was getting booed. Even the home team was getting like, oh my God, we can't watch this anymore.
It's a rabid fan base.
Oh my God, they would talk smack to everybody, no matter what. And that's just their thing, right? But as you go around and you play in different places, I mean, a place like Pittsburgh where, they were perennial losers. I thought it was unbelievable that I never forget they had bobblehead day, and their bobblehead was Charlie Brown because he wore the yellow and black as well. But because Charlie Brown is known as the lovable loser. And it was like, we 11th straight year that we finished under 500, but we love our team. And so perspective, I think it taught me perspective, right? It taught me how to deal with, you're going out there and you're giving it your best. Are we as talented as the other team? At times. And that's the beautiful thing about baseball. Every single game is different, right? You have a chance to win every single game. Even the best starter in the world could have a bad day.
Yeah.
So you can't just immediately say, oh, it's just the Pittsburgh Pirates against the New York Yankees, so they're going to lose. And that's the whole Rocky thing in me. Like, there's no chance that I'm counting myself out. I have a chance because I'm on the same field no matter what. I'm in the big leagues, so I have a chance. So I learned things from each venue and from each fan base. But I think at the end of the day, home is where everything has started. Home is where the dream started, and the dream became a reality. I was that kid sitting in the upper deck looking down at Dwight Gooden on the mound. And then, on that faithful day, April 11th, back in '08, I got to pitch on the mound. And I remember, getting 2 strikes and slow claps starting at Shea Stadium. And I'm like, oh, my God, like I got goosebumps. I had to step off the mound and
That's wild.
regroup. First guy, I got a ground ball instead of a strikeout, but hey, third out of the inning, great. The next time I get 2 strikes on a guy, there goes the slow clap again. And I'm like, I got to give the people what they want, like I remember. And so I strike the next guy out, and the fans went nuts. They threw their hands up, and I got the chills over my body. I'm walking around the mound. And for that 7 seconds, I knew what it was like to be Dwight Gooden. For that 7 seconds. And so that to me is where you learn about not only how surreal it is, the moments, but how that and I keep going back to it, the impossibility of making it for a kid who was, I didn't throw 98 miles an hour. I wasn't 6'5". I didn't go to a Division I school. So every step along the way, just to get there the first time was well worth it, just to hear those cheers and have a moment like that.
So one thing that I know, as a player, and Mike was a baseball player also, pitchers, even though they don't get a chance to do it that much, they love to hit. And I'm guessing you were no different. You only had 116 at bats in your career. Okay. And I researched this, and I thought it was pretty neat that you had 1 triple. Do you remember your triple by any chance?
Are you kidding me? remember it was like yesterday for 2 reasons. One, it was off of Kyle Loesch of the Cardinals.
Yep.
Rick Ankiel was playing center field, and he played me at Little League depth. He played me at Little League depth because I was a pitcher.
Exactly.
And I believe it was 1 out with 2 guys on, and drove in 2 more runs. But the crazy part about it was that was the day that Jonathan Neese had ripped his hamstring off the bone during the game. And I ran out there to go pitch in his place. And then I come up to bat. And first thing I do the very next inning is I hit this triple. And I remember saying to myself, I'm just going to go for it. Right? If I'm out, I'm out. So what? Right. And Razor Shines, who was the third base coach, he held me up. And he was walking over to me.
Wow.
No, he shook his head because he goes, we just lost the pitcher to a hamstring. You pull your hamstring, big dog, and I'm out of a job, And I look at him and I'm like, damn, I reached third standing up. So I was like, could I have gone? And he was like, maybe. And I was like, I would only have 1 shot. I should have just blown the stop sign and kept going.
Yeah, you still would have had the triple. So to just refresh your memory and to let our audience know, this was August 5th, 2009. It was the first season of Citi Field. Jonathan Neese got hurt in the second inning. Nelson Figueroa came on to pitch the 2nd through the 6th. The Mets went on to win 9-0. Nelly had not just a triple, but he had, I believe, a double also in that game, 2 ribbies, and that must have been one of the greatest career experiences you ever had. You also hit 2 batters. Do you remember either one of them?
Let me see.
One of them is a Hall of Famer and one of the best righty hitters we've ever seen.
Well, a Pujols.
Correct.
One of them.
Yep, 100%.
I hit him in the hand. I remember that.
You hit Pujols.
Hitting Pujols. And the other one's a Hall of Famer.
No, that was Pujols. So that is Pujols, the Hall of Famer.
Okay, that was
yeah.
and the other one was the greatest, right? Maybe the greatest right hand.
The other one was Ryan Ludwig. Ludwig, you remember Ryan Ludwig?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
So I remember the biggest moment I think in that game was Holiday, the outfielder.
Oh yeah, they played for the Yankees later on. Yeah.
Yes,
Matt
he
Holliday.
was up to bat with bases loaded,
yeah.
and I threw him a sinker inside, and he swung over the top of it, and he did one of those snap the bat over his knee things. I was like, oh,
Wow.
good.
I got
He
one
did
of
it.
those,
Better the bat
exactly.
than me. Better the
Wow.
bat than me. All right. So
Speaking of Hall of Famers, CC Sabathia today.
That's right. CC
Yeah.
Sabathia
and
got
I
in.
heard Figgy talking
Congrats.
about it earlier.
Oh,
He
nice.
was telling
Yeah.
a great story about you met CC not too long ago, right?
yeah.
Playing golf?
It was this summer. So yeah, it was this summer. I went to go over at Manhattan Woods. I called up and said, "Hey, can I get out there for a few holes?" And they were like, "Sure." I was like, "I'm going to go to a driving range first and hit some." So I'm hitting some balls, and I hear his voice coming up the driving range, and it's unmistakable. You know the voice. And
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I turn around and I see him, and I'm straightening out my club. I get ready, and I hit a couple more balls, and I turn around and I go. And I look at him, and he looks at me, and I said, "Hey, CC Nelson." He goes, "Figgy." I go, "Hey, how you doing?" And so he says hello, and I go, "I've always wanted to tell you this." And he's like, "What's up?" I go, "I hate you. You ruined my life." And he goes, "I'm sorry, what?" And I go, 2008, your Scorched Earth tour that you went on with the
That's
Milwaukee
right.
Brewers, where he was trying to get that big contract, and he was throwing complete game after complete game. He was hitting home runs.
Did he go
I mean,
like
was doing
11
it all.
and
He was
2? Is that what he
Yeah,
went?
he was
11 and
at
2?
some-
he
Something
was
crazy?
a one-man wrecking crew.
Yeah.
Because he was so like, I'm going to get this team to the playoffs, and he single-handedly put the Milwaukee Brewers on his back and got them to the playoffs because we lost that last game on that last day. And he turns around and he says to me, he goes, "Oh, now I know why." And I go, "Yeah." I go, "That changed everything. It would have been my first time in the playoffs, and who knows what would have happened had I been, gotten a chance to pitch or whatever." And he's like, "Oh, well, I would like to say I'm sorry, but I'm not."
Exactly.
And then-
but you're right.
and,
Who knows if CC's not playing out of his mind?
Out of his
who knows what's gonna
mind.
happen.
Yeah.
Out of his mind.
No, it was one of the most impressive, second halves of a season that I ever seen. When he got traded at the deadline, and all of a sudden he was just a different animal. Like we hadn't seen anything like that in a long, long time. He was just as dominant a pitcher, and then he was in the batter's box, just free swinging, going for it.
Bombs.
That's right.
I want to say he had like 3 home runs down the stretch. And,
Monster.
it was just fun to watch, and then to see him, get the big contract with the Yankees and to continue that level of excellence for so long, and then compile those numbers. And you look, and now you sit back and you're like, man, who's gonna be able to eclipse those kinds of numbers and put themselves in that kind of at that level? And
He said Sabathia
very-
is like the last of a dying breed.
So that's an excellent point. What's interesting is that you don't see it happen that many times, and we're looking at it right now where Alonso is playing for a contract, and obviously things that has not worked out, and other guys have done the same thing. Conforto, but if you look at it, CC played for the deal, got a huge deal, started pitching for the Yankees, and wins a championship his first year, along with Teixeira and other signings. But he played it the way you kind of dream that someone can play it, and it worked out perfectly well for him, obviously, and then continued his Hall of Fame career with the Yankees.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. Like, you always want to bet on yourself. I mean, it's a level of confidence that you have to have just to be to make it to the big leagues and to stay in the big leagues. That's one of the things. Like, it's daunting when you go out there and you're facing a team, and you're facing a team with a guy like Pujols in the lineup, and Yadier Molina in the lineup, and you're like just in awe sometimes of the guys that you're facing, because I faced Bonds, my first and my rookie year, and I'm like, oh my God, like this guy can hit everything and anything I can pitch. And so it's always like that. But I do think that it's the way that you have to be, and you're betting on yourself. And Pete, like we saw Conforto had a really tough time playing for that contract, because, at the end of the day, you think all your work leading up to it means nothing if you have a bad year. That's what people will look at. Oh, well, maybe he's fallen off. Maybe everything else was a fluke. And it makes it difficult to wake up every day and be like, man, this 0 for 4 is turning into 0 for 8, an 0 for 12, 0 for 22. This is not the time I need to have this. And there's a lot of pressure with that. And so it's not that they can't handle the pressure, because just playing in the big leagues and doing as well as they did for as long as they did, Pete set a standard when he came out his first year in the big leagues. He broke the rookie
50,
home run record.
So, Nelly, who's going to blink here? Like, I mean, obviously, the way I see it, the Mets need Alonso in the lineup as protection for Soto. There doesn't seem to be a big market for him. I feel that there should be some allegiance on the Mets' behalf, being that what he's done for them, even though they don't have to per se pay him for what he's done. But he's only 31 years old. I think a 3-year, $90 million contract, it's fair, but it doesn't seem like the Mets want to budge on that. What do you think's going to happen here?
Yeah, I mean, we've been hearing these numbers being thrown back and forth, and it's all been pretty much speculation because we haven't heard it from the sources themselves, right? We heard that the Mets' last offer to Pete was 3 years, something in the 73
or something,
range, 68 to 73 or something like that, or 68 to 70. They've gone down on their offer because, again, what are they going to do? Bet against themselves, and I think that's what Boris had been trying to do for a while now by going, all right, we're going to give you guys an exclusive chance to sign us now. Now, hear me out. 3 years, $40 million a year. What says you? And the Mets were like, no, why would we sign you for $40 million a year when we don't even want to pay you $30 million a year?
Exactly.
So I think this is one of those situations where it's the timing of it all. Billy Epler was a GM who spent like a drunken sailor. And that was his MO and his history. Go back and look at the Anaheim Angels. They spent over $2 billion since Mike Trout's days, and they have nothing to show for it. They barely made the playoffs one time. Yeah. So Billy Epler had his hand in a lot of that, Arthur Moreno's money. And then you look at what happens when he comes across and he's trying to say, hey, let's put together this super team. And Steve Cohen's like, sure, go for it. And now we're looking at a $350 million payroll. And it was, when you look at it and you're like, well, what could go wrong? I mean, these guys are almost only 40 and we'll pace them out there. And then all of a sudden we lose Quintana with a rib injury before it all starts. The 5 pitchers never pitched together.
Nope.
And so there's a lot that went into it, right? I think one of the biggest things that you learn from that for a guy like Pete and how the industry is, it's all about the timing. Billy Epler is the one who gave an 8-year deal to Brandon Nimmo for $22 million a year. And Brandon Nimmo didn't bat an eyelash. He's like, yeah, I'll take it. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah. Now with Pete, you see him get that kind of a deal and you're like, okay, where's mine? Like,
what's this? He sees everyone around him getting the bag. He's got Soto, he's getting the Nimmo, you got Lindor.
Of course. And it's not that they don't have the money to do it. And it's not even, and I say it, I said it 1,000 times now that, I look at what the Giants just did with Saquon Barkley. Like, you let your best player walk out the door because of $2 million more that you couldn't give him.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not willing to do that. But at the same time, there's got to be some, hey, listen, you aren't Matt Olson. You aren't Freddie Freeman either, and they're getting between 21 and 27 million.
Yeah, I mean, I think
if we offered you 25, then that's right in your ballpark.
Yeah,
I know he wants the years. It's the 6 years he wants.
Well, yeah. I think that what's happening here, and this happens with a lot of these guys. It happened with Mike Moustakas a few years ago. It happened with Conforto, where these guys, they get a big offer. The agent, which is usually Boris, tells them, no, don't take it. They don't take it. They bank on themselves, and then they're in spring training with a 1-year, $14 million show me deal. And that's a problem for these guys, and I think Pete is stuck on that he's like, well, they offered me 7 and 170, whatever it is, and he has to realize that he's not getting that from anybody, and he should probably come to an arrangement with the Mets if he can.
Yeah, I think it's going to be beneficial to both parties to see how it works out, because for Pete, this is what he's wanted. Right? An opportunity to play in the playoffs. He did that last year. He came through with one of the biggest Met moments in the history of the franchise with the home run off Devin Williams. He gave the speech when they had the talk before they went into the playoffs, when they went to go play the Braves, about how, get me to the playoffs. This is all I want to do is do it in a Met uniform. He keeps saying over and over, I just want to be a Met. I just want to be a Met. And then you hire Scott Boras, whose job it is to try and get you top dollar. But if you saw, it's funny, right? We talk about how Pete's trending downward. His slugging is down. His
batting average is down. His OBP is down.
Home runs were down. Right. So he's trending in this way. Which way is Scott Boras trending?
Yeah.
Which way has Scott Boras been trending for the last
trillionaire?
5
Always.
But the thing is because he has one big, but he's always had one big client that a monkey could get
Yeah.
500 million for.
Yeah.
Who couldn't get Juan Soto? If Juan Soto got offers from 3 teams over $700 million,
Right.
then it's not Scott Boris's doing, right?
Yeah.
So to me, that's great. That wasn't a hard sale. Now, you told the other guys, like last year's crop with Jordan Montgomery and Chapman and all these other guys, I got you. Multi-year deals. Blake Snell, who just came off of winning a Cy Young. I got you. You're going to get like an 8-year deal, no money guaranteed out the wazoo. And everybody in baseball was like, why? We're not going to pay that. You find one of the other 29 that'll pay it. And then when all 29 said, we get the same analytics and same numbers. Blake Snell has one complete game in his career. I mean, that was the knock. He constantly is 5 and dive, but he's a ton of strikeouts in those 5 and dive. But that's what the new starter is in Major League Baseball.
That's right. Yeah.
Ton of strikeouts, 100 pitches or less, get in, get out, quick and dirty, and just be the best you can be in those 5 innings. And no one says anything. Everything is great. Baseball loves that. But why are you paying these guys $40 million a year if you won't pay a first baseman who plays 160 games a year, who has a chance to help you win every single ball game, not 30 ball games? How do you not find the money to compensate for that? And again, Pete has been a model citizen. He's been nothing but a great Met on and off the field, and he has a chance to break some records. Now, do you sit back and say, it's up to him how much that means to him? Because that's what Aaron Judge said. It was about legacy more so than money. Because you can't tell me, and this is one of the things I find very, very funny. Aaron Judge went for $40 million at the time. We threw $70 million like nothing at Shohei, but that was because he was a two-way athlete.
Right.
We've never seen
And the
before.
deferred money, yeah.
Right. The Soto thing, where if you put Soto's first 6 seasons and Judge's first 6 seasons side by side, it's not even a comparison. So how did Judge only just settle for $40 million? Uncle Stevie didn't have $45 million, $50 million in the bank to take him away from the Yankees? No. Right. It was kind of a gentleman's agreement that was their guy. If he wanted to be a Yankee, he was going to be a Yankee. And you can't sit here and tell me $50 million different, $10 million a year, or I'm sorry, $5 million a year, then you go $100 million different, right? So $10 million a year for 10 years wouldn't have swayed him a little bit.
Exactly.
We'll give you $100 million more, and you take away the best player in New York, and you take him and put him in your uniform because that's what you wanted to do with Soto. But you could have done that with Judge too.
That's right.
They didn't, right? So he got $40 million. But there's no player. If you compare the first 6 years, it's not apples and oranges. It's apples and rocks. It's a guy who bats .284 for his career, and you're telling me he's the best hitter in baseball. He's the best eye in baseball. He hits 30 to 35 home runs, around 35 home runs, around 100 RBIs, and he's good. Don't get me wrong, but Aaron Judge is a more complete player.
That's it.
Well,
right now he's stuck in his deal. Look at Bryce Harper's deal, $24 million a year for 12 years.
Well,
now you're looking at that deal, and you're like, what is going on?
the one factor that they don't talk about a lot with Soto, and certainly Mike and I, as diehard Yankee fans, can attest to, I think he is a piss-poor outfielder. I don't think he's an average outfielder. I think he's a shit outfielder. I don't think he's good. I think he's not going to – I don't love the idea of him in Citi Field. I don't think he can be hitting that well. So I think that's important for us to acknowledge that he's not a great outfielder. He's just not.
I'm well aware of what his metrics are. I'm well aware of what the optics are, right, when you watch him play. He was nominated for a Gold Glove, which is hysterical because of
ridiculous
10 assists. Because teams were sending catchers to test his arm and he's
right.
throwing out Salvador Perez.
That's right.
So I get all that, but I'm going to say this. He's only 26.
That's true.
Yeah.
Also,
That's a huge element to it. And that's what takes us to the other part of the Pete Alonso. You could pay Pete Alonso now, where he's 30, 31, and everything's kind of trending downward, or there's a guy who's going to be 26 at the end of this season who's been trending upward, and he's a first baseman as well. And you can pair those two together, those guys for 10 years, 26 to 36, in the prime of their careers, with Vladimir Guerrero.
Who are you going to give the longer contract to? Vladimir Guerrero.
That's where we're at right now. Yeah.
So that's where that thing. If you're sitting there and you're David Stearns, you have no loyalty to Pete.
Right.
You didn't draft him.
He doesn't love
put
Pete.
him in the big leagues.
We know that. Yeah, he doesn't love Pete.
But here's my thing. My thing about him is about David Stearns is what he has done well his whole career is put together winning teams.
Right.
Right. He did it in Milwaukee without a 40 home run hitter.
Nope.
Not one. Maybe not even a 30 home run hitter. Okay. He's done it without 30 home run hitters.
Yeah.
Willie Adames, who nobody wanted.
Right.
He scooped him up from Tampa Bay and made him look. He was an all-star, and look at what he's doing now. So he has put together teams. He does not have to pay anybody because he learned that from being with the Brewers. They didn't have money.
He's a winner.
But he's always been a winner, right? And so you have to trust in that he knows what he's doing here. Now, do you tug at the heartstrings a little bit of Alonso because he wants to be here? Yes, because he. What happens if Alonso goes somewhere else and he has just a 25 home run the rest of his career, and he's not going to break any records with that new franchise?
No,
he's going to break the Mets record if he stays. Right? He could be the all-time hitter for the Mets that was drafted by the Mets and ends his career with the Mets. He could be the all-time leading hitter unless Soto somehow breaks all his records. But he's got a 6-year head start on Soto.
Well,
so to me, why would you not do that? And I think that's one of the things is that they're saying, you know what, if it really means that much to you, then you just take the deal.
Take the deal.
Money.
I think,
but at the end of it, a legacy deal could be had. Right? So say he stays, he does 3 years. They win a World Series, even just one World Series. Ask the 86 guys about how that life is.
Well, speaking of which, Figgy, I think it's important that maybe Pete pick up the phone and call an 86 Met, Darryl Strawberry, who will tell anybody that the biggest regret of his, not just his career, but his life, was when he left for the Dodgers in 1990 for that deal, 5 years, $25 million, and it didn't work out well for either side. So maybe both sides need to look and say, let's just iron this out and figure it out and give him the legacy deal and let's just move along. You know?
Yeah, I think he can honestly listen. If you give him a 3-year deal, he wants to try somehow test the market. The first baseman's market is not a robust thing. I mean, you could go back a few years ago, and I remember laughing about this. That a gentleman by the name of Chris Carter led the National League, or American League. I'm sorry, because he was with Houston at the time. 41 home runs, 100 and some odd RBIs. He couldn't get a job the next year.
Yeah.
Which was unbelievable. He played for what, Brewers, A's, right?
Yes.
Bombs, hit bombs.
A prolific home run hitter, RBI guy, couldn't get a job.
Crazy.
And waiting it out, and finally, 10 days before spring training, magically the Yankees had a couple of million to give him, and he took it. And you're like, what?
Why?
The hell just happened?
Yeah.
It used to be if you led the league in home runs, that's a 4-year deal, double digits of millions, and he couldn't even get a deal. Now, it didn't work out after that because what happened is he's a right-handed hitter. Look at Lucas Duda. Look at Granderson. What happened? The shift. Yeah. Neutralized. Instantly neutralized. Lucas Duda was a 30 home run hitter, neutralized to a batting below 200 almost.
It actually ran him out of baseball because he would hit those ropes, that would normally be singles to right field, and then there were outs every time.
Standing there.
Yeah.
And that was one thing. So now they banned the shift and they moved everything around, and so it's there's always a metric, there's always a formula that goes beyond what you can read now on any website, right?
Yep.
And you sit back and you're saying, well, what is it about Pete? Because nobody is jumping out saying, here's $30 million. Nobody. Not a single team.
No.
The most prolific home run hitter since he's joined the major leagues, and nobody is like, that's got to be worth 30.
Yeah.
It's outrageous.
Nobody.
Nelly, I want to touch on a couple of things before we let you go. You had taken a little shot before, and I liked it, about how nobody throws pitches anymore. So I'm going to throw a date at you, one more date, and see if it sticks out in your mind. Does August 9th, 2022 stick in your brain for any particular reason?
2022. That would be when I had to call upon myself to pitch in a professional game in the Atlantic League.
So you were a pitching coach for the Staten Island Ferry Hawks. They needed some relief, and you started the game. And how many pitches did you throw?
119.
119 pitches.
unheard of.
He was
Complete
48
game.
years old at the time.
Yeah.
Okay, so the fact that you forget about what you did that game, the fact that you had the wherewithal to be able to actually throw. How did you even do it?
So one of the things is I've doing lessons for years, and I would, as the pitching coach, I played catch every day. Warmed up the guy who's going to throw his bullpen, and I would mess around and get on the mound because I could show as well as I could explain. And so guys would always want to work on throwing a pitch, and I would try and explain. Then I'm like, all right, look, just hold it like this, throw it like this, and I would be able to show them how to do it. So I mean, I kept myself in shape, some kind of shape, shape enough, I would say.
Yeah.
That. It was one of those things where you always have it in the back of your head, like I said, what if? And it happened where we were traveling and we got to we got to Gastonia, and we get this, our GM calls and he says, listen, we might have a doubleheader tomorrow. And I go, we don't have pitching for a doubleheader tomorrow. My two starters from the weekend. One of them just came back from an injury. He only went 2 innings, and so my bullpen had to go the rest of the game. My other starter got hurt in the 3rd inning, and we had to pick up the slack with the bullpen the rest of the game. So I said, my bullpen's pretty taxed. I go, we don't have the pitching for a doubleheader. And so I talked with the president of the league, and I said, so what's the deal here? He's like, well, we have to play this game. It's a makeup game from the first half. Now, that team that we played won the first half by 18 games. So we couldn't understand what was the necessity about it. And then somebody told us, if they have that win, if they win that game, then they have one of the top 5 winning percentages of all time for a half a season. Whoop-de-doo.
Yeah.
That's what I said. So I said, oh my God, that's incredible. That's unbelievable. I said, you know what? We forfeit. Now I'm the pitching coach, and it wasn't really my call, but Edgardo Alfonso's behind me. He's like, yeah, we forfeit. And I go, well, just forfeit the game. It's supposed to be played in Staten Island, first of all. It is 104 degrees in Gastonia on August 9th. And about an hour and a half before the game, I'm talking with the president of the league, and I said, well, there's only one thing that we can do. I go, Fonzie, will you sign me? And he goes, for what? I go, to pitch. I go, I'll go out there, I'll pitch. Whatever happens, happens. I don't care. I said, put all the backup players in with me so that they get a chance to play, and we don't wear out the guys in the game that matters for the second half, because we started out the second half really hot. We were playing very, very well, and they were the first place team. So you have to win the second half to be able to make the playoffs, right? Because that team had already won the first half. So I said, you know what? I'm more concerned about the second game. Give me all the backup. Give me the 3rd string catcher catching me. Give me, anybody and everybody who's not going to play in the next game. And he's like, are you sure about this? I said, yeah. I go, as long as you don't care, I don't care. I'm going to go out there and compete, but let's see what we can do. And the first inning happens, and I think I walked the first guy, and then I struck out the next 2 guys. And I'm like, oh, my God, I can do this still.
You're back.
And
Figgy's back.
Yeah, I'm back. This is going to be awesome. And so the second inning, I remember I gave up like a missile of a double, and then I hit a guy, and then the next guy hits a 3-run home run. And I'm like, oh, my God, this sucks. I'm done. And so I had to just figure out how to get through. It was like Rocky Balboa, right? I'm trying to rope a dope and survive and get through the whole thing.
You're bobbing and weaving.
The 7th inning, bobbing and weaving. 7th inning finishes, and I walk off the mound, and I get towards the dugout, and Fonzie holds his phone. He's holding it, showing me, because we had the game day, just like the major leagues does. And he goes, 119 pitches.
Oh, man.
And I go, all right, well, I guess I'm not available for tomorrow. And
that's it. Or ever again.
Everybody high fives me and everything else. And so we wound up losing that game 10-5 or whatever it was. And I also had no DH. I wanted to hit, so I got a chance to hit. And I struck out the first time, put the second ball in play, grounded out to first, hard ground ball. And so we get done with the game, and as I'm walking too, because it's a doubleheader, I'm walking back to change my clothes and be ready to coach now. The other team is just standing there, like, staring at me. And they're like, you're the freaking pitching coach? And I go, yeah.
I love that.
They go, we didn't know until like the 4th inning, where they were like, do you know who that is? That's the pitching coach. He's 48 years old. He's almost 50. And there's one guy, I can't remember his name, but he was actually drafted ahead of Mike Trout. He left-handed hitter, real powerful build. He had this red bat, and it was like Wonder Boy, and like he turn around 98-mile-an-hour fastballs and everything else. And I kept throwing him cutters in on his hands because I didn't want the ball. I didn't want him to get extension on me, just hit a tank job. So I'm throwing cutter after cutter. I would throw a sinker, then a split, and come back with a cutter. And I jammed the heck out of him. And he thought the bat broke. And everybody in the dugout's like, no! And he's checking the bat. He goes, you almost broke.
You almost broke.
I go, yeah. He goes, dude, 98 miles an hour inside from a lefty. He goes, I'm turning it around like nothing. Goes,
man, you almost had to bring out the Savoy special, right? Man.
Yeah. So that was a day I will never forget, and a day that I will feel still forever.
I love it. Nelly,
it was a lot.
Before we let you go, there's obviously such an impressive resume from Mark Twain Middle School up to pitching 119 innings and everything, 119 pitches, I should say, and everything in between. 119 innings would be a lot too.
It's a lot.
One thing that I did not know, and Mike and I were talking about it, certainly in light of patriotism and what's going on in our world right now. Could you tell us a little bit about your history as an artist and what you did regarding patriotic T-shirts after 9/11? I didn't know about that. I read it and I was kind of blown away today. So can you just touch on that before we let you go?
Yeah, so when 9/11 happened, I was with the Philadelphia Phillies, and we were in Atlanta. And I was sleeping, and my brother called me. It was 9 o'clock, and he's like, wake up. Where are you? Wake up. And I'm like, I'm up. What's up? He's like, a plane just flew into the World Trade Center. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? And he's like, no, it's for real. Turn on the TV. And I turned on the TV, and I just turned on TV in time to see the second one hit. And I was like, what in the hell is going on? Like, it was like a movie. It was like, this can't be happening. It's got to be a dream, and I'm trying to wake up, and towers fall, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? And we have no idea what's going on, right? And so all of a sudden, the phone's ringing. They're calling us, get everybody downstairs, grab your stuff. We're heading to the ballpark. We got to get out of the hotel because we're across the street from the CDC building. And so they knew that was a target possibly for a terrorist attack as well. So they get us out of the hotel. We go to the ballpark. So the Braves are there at the ballpark. We're there at the ballpark. And, we're all just sitting around trying to figure out what's going on. All the New Yorkers got together with Jason Marquis, myself, Mike Stanton, the pitcher. We're all just trying to figure out Mike Remlinger, the pitcher.
Lefty
we're all
pitcher,
trying to figure out, we're trying to figure out what's going on. Have we gotten in touch with anybody back in New York? Nobody's heard from anybody. We're just in a disarray. And so they say to us, that the air traffic has been shut down. We've got to travel by bus. They canceled the rest of the series in Atlanta, and we're just going to head out to Cincinnati. So we're getting on a bus now to travel 14 hours to Cincinnati from Atlanta, and we're taking this bus ride like it's the minor leagues again. And so we had two buses, and everybody's on the bus, and we stop at a truck stop, and I buy one of those inverter charger things that we can all plug into so we can try and keep some juice, and anybody can get a hold of anybody in New York so we can see what's going on. Everyone that did, we kind of took a tally of everybody being okay. So while we were there in Atlanta, we were there for a second day, and I don't know what it was, but I was looking at the American flag that was on the screen because they were, showing a 9/11 on ground zero. They had the flag waving, and the element of baseball at the same time, like it's America's pastime. I was sitting there, and I kind of melded the two images together. And this is before Photoshop and everything else, and I figured out how to, put it together on the screen, and made it come to life. And never forget that Mike Remlinger was like, this looks really cool. Like, what are you going to do with this? And I initially, when we first got back to Philadelphia, I went to a Kinko's and I made 3 T-shirts, and I sent them. I sent one to Remlinger, I sent one to Marquis, and they were like, "No, we got to do this bigger. Like this is pretty amazing." And Remlinger had a cousin in Massachusetts who had a silk screening place, and they donated their services for free. And we got 1,000 T-shirts at first donated, and we sent 30 T-shirts to all 30 teams. And the Marlins were wearing them as batting practice jerseys. Wow. And people were like, where can we get these shirts? Where can we get these shirts? And I was like, you know what? We can do something really cool with this. Major League Baseball at the time had donated $1 million. The Players Association had donated $1 million. with my calculations about how many shirts we could get turned around and sold. And I was even just pushing because it wasn't the rest of the season I was worried about. It was going towards the playoffs. I said, let's focus on just the playoff teams and the New York cities, so that we can get them the T-shirts and we can sell them. I mean, we had 10,000 T-shirts at City Field or Shea Stadium at the time, and they sold out in 10 minutes.
Wow.
Everybody that walked by made a donation. It was $20, whatever, donate whatever they could. And so then we went to Yahoo, and Yahoo Auctions opened up a thing with us, and we started getting donations from a lot of the players of like just random things. Jimmy Rollins had broken the consecutive stolen base record. He gave me the actual spikes that he broke the record with. He signed them, and we put them out for auction, and we raised over like $20,000. Ichiro, oh God, speaking of Ichiro today, he sent us 12 different things autographed from his rookie season.
Wow.
all-star jerseys, batting gloves, bats, spikes, glove. He sent us 12 different items, and it was so massive that we had to find out a way how to get the bidding from Japan and verify before we even accepted it and sent it to them. Well, we wound up raising over $450,000.
Wow.
And that was just in that auction. Ooh. So I again started putting it and calculating it, and I sat down with MLB and the Players Association, and I said, if we do this properly, we could probably raise somewhere over $3 million. And we just couldn't get everybody on board. And there was a lot of red tape because we were using a logo here. Majestic wanted to take it over and use their own design. And I said, no, that's not what it's about. It's about my design. It's about my design and the players backing me and everything else. And I said, I want to keep it still our thing. I don't want it to be commercialized in any way, shape, or form. So I signed off my rights to all profits, donated everything. We opened up the 9/11 Foundation. And we did that for several years. And then fast forward 20 years later, we did a 20-year anniversary one at Catch Astoria. We did a whole nother one. And, we raised, it was something in the neighborhood of like almost $20,000 at this one event. Jeff Nelson was there with me. I was doing the podcast with Jake Brown. And a lot of the 7-Line guys came out, and same thing. T-shirts were for sale and donation. And then we had tumblers made. We had all these different items made. And then we tried to do a little bit of an auction on some different items. Jeff Nelson, of course, being a multiple World Series champion, helped us out tremendously. And it was something that I did, and I love doing this stuff. Like now it's easy. I can do it on my phone, and it sometimes pisses me off because I have these ideas that I want to put on television, and we've got to send it to an editor, and an editor has to do this and do that. And I'm like, I can literally draw that circle on my phone in 2 seconds. But so it's amazing with the technology, the stuff that you can do. And I'm still very heavily involved in graphic stuff like that, and still trying to do things like that where I can help raise money and raise awareness. And, one of the things I always said was that I didn't, make enough money to donate the amount of money I wanted to donate, but I'm able to raise way more money. And that's one of the best things, is that getting the community involved and being a part of a lot of different projects that help a lot of different people along the way. And so, if I spent 20 years playing Major League Baseball and I lived in one city, my life wouldn't be as enriched as it has been.
Well,
continues to be.
You definitely have enriched a lot of lives. There's no question about it. Mike and I and our producer Tony were super stoked to have you on.
I do have one quick question before we let him go. One of our listeners had messaged me. I thought it was a good question.
Oh, do it,
because we were talking briefly. You played Milwaukee, and this week we lost one of my favorite personalities in sports. Lost Bob Uecker. Did you get to have any experiences with Bob Uecker at all?
Yeah. With Bob Uecker, he would come down during batting practice and he would hang out by the batting cage. And as a pitcher, like you said, we like to hit, right? So we go out there, we do our rounds, and getting a chance to interact with Uecker and listen to his stories, and just he could say nothing at all, and you're still cracking up, laughing. Absolutely. Just his delivery was just amazing, and like he never missed a beat. And like it's a shame that he passes away, but you got to go through YouTube and watch all the videos, the Johnny Carson episodes. He was on Johnny Carson over 100 times.
Yeah. Oh my God.
When you talk about someone who's being named Mr. Baseball for barely batting 200,
exactly.
that tells you how special he was, because he was a representation of the game of baseball, the goofy side of baseball, but at the same time, a man of integrity, a man that people love to listen to, and broadcasted some of the biggest moments in baseball. And I think that's something that, as we talked about before, as you get to the end of your career, what are you going to do next? What are you going to do next? Did I think I would be on television like Mr. Belvedere? I don't have my own TV show, but I work on Pix 11 tomorrow morning. I'll be on the New York Living Day show. It's an hour-long show, a variety of topics and stuff. And a guy like Bob Uecker made that possible. Like, it wasn't just about the superstar player. Like, his personality shined, his experiences always came out, and he was just somebody that I looked up to. In a way that was different than everybody else. And I have an even greater appreciation for what he brought to the table off the field. And to have two statues, you have one outside the building and one inside the building, that tells you how special the man he was.
Nelly, have you ever heard the story that Norm Macdonald has told on Letterman a few times about Norm Macdonald telling the story about Bob Uecker talking about Belvedere? Do you know the story?
Yeah. Yes, I literally watched that one.
Dude, how funny is that?
It's hilarious.
It's ridiculous.
He is, and the best part, like I said, is that everyone that has come, all the stories that come out, you hear them tell their stories, and it was like it didn't take him any time to think about it. It wasn't like he called the next day and he had a funny one-liner. He hit it on the nose every single time.
When he said, "I was the minor league player of the year in 1964," it was my second year in the big leagues.
That's right.
Yeah. No, he had that one, and then remember during the Hall of Fame speech where he's talking about how his kids wanted to go home with one of the other players.
Right.
Whenever he would go to the ballpark.
Right.
What about this Belvedere? He loves mozzarella.
Oh, yeah. And Norm Macdonald's just like, where the hell's he going with this?
I love it. I love it.
He's phenomenal.
Listen, man, you have been terrific. And on behalf of my partner, Mike Keegan, and our producer, Tony Walker, as well as two very dear friends of mine that I feel remiss if I don't mention, because they are two of the biggest diehard Met fans that have ever lived. They are huge fans of yours. They have both gone through some health issues over the past year, and they were both overjoyed to know that you were going to be on. So please say a nice hello to my two dear friends, Rich Kleiman and John Olivio, who are just thrilled to have that you're going to be here tonight, and they really do. They are very fond of you.
Well, all my well wishes and prayers go out to Rich, and I think that's tremendous too. Guys like you are very uplifting, and helping people get through a lot of the adversities that everyone goes through, and it's a part of life, but at the same time, having an outlet, having something that makes you smile, and you guys do a tremendous job. But Moose told me about it, and I said, you know what, sign me up.
Awesome.
Oh, that was awesome of you. And by the way, me and I've spent plenty of days in Saratoga with Moose and his dad, and I plan on bringing Tony and Keegs there this summer. I don't know if you've ever spent any time in Saratoga, the racetrack, but we'd love to spend some time with you. We'll all have a blast.
No, sounds like a good time. I tell Moose that all the time. I said, Moose, you're supposed to culturalize me, right?
Yeah.
Horse racing and hockey guy, and yet we haven't been to one Ranger game.
Right.
And he's like, the Rangers are terrible. I go, don't be that guy.
Here's what I'll tell you. If you spend one day in Saratoga next summer, just one day, and Moose and his dad go every year, you'll never stop going back for the rest of your life. You're a New York guy. You're a Jersey guy. I'm telling you.
Yep.
So I'll hook up with Moose, and we'll get the gang together. And again, we thank you so much. You are a gift to all of us. And I'll send you the link tomorrow if you want to share it with your followers. And thanks so much for being here, my friend.
Thank you, guys. Have a great night.
All right, take care. Bye now.
Later.
Awesome.
Yeah, that was great. Was that Frank Loicano?
Franco, yeah, I was gonna bring him up.
He's a great contributor.
Frank's got the best. I'm gonna have him write the questions instead of you from now on. No, you still got good ones. You're still good,
dude. Frank's
a good guy. Speaking of Frank, he's got this charity event that he does every year is coming up.
Oh, okay.
It's called Think Happy. It's going to be Wednesday, March 19th at the Jericho Terrace in Mineola.
And you went last year.
I go every year. Yeah.
You took pics with was
last
Gooden
year, Doc Gooden was there 2 years ago. Last year, Bobby Nystrom was there.
Yeah. That's right. I texted Nystrom. Nystrom was one of the guys who, when I made my cheesy post tonight on Facebook about
exactly.
One day that. Thank you for liking that, by the way. I said I loved you in the post, and you still didn't even like it.
I liked it in here.
Yeah. But I said that there were some people that have said no to us, and he was one of them.
He's like, nah, good luck next time, kid.
Yeah. So I don't know if we'll ever get to a point where Bobby Nystrom cares that he's not on the show, but
exactly.
We'll talk a little bit more. We ran late, but I'm gonna
happy though. Get you inbox me if you want some tickets. Wednesday, March 19th at the Jericho Terrace.
What are they? A couple $100 a pop?
Event. What are they? $150 a person.
That's not
you
bad.
Get a table of 10 for $1,400. There's awesome raffles there, food, open bar. It's a great night.
I think I want to consider going with you
we'll
this
go together
year.
this year. Tony,
Okay.
You're more than welcome.
Let's all go together. We'll talk a little bit more. I want to just run through our second set of sponsors. If you're ready, Tone, you'll let me know. You're good? We have Minuteman Sewer and Drain, Minuteman Plumbing and Heating. Call 1-800-287-1772 for a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week service and ask for Bill. American Restoration Solutions. When disaster strikes, they'll guide you to recovery. Call 516-662-9377 and ask for Senior Account Manager Keith Dunn. New View Construction, established in 2007. They are the people to call for the finest craftsmanship and all of your general contracting needs. Call 516-924-5627 and do it with confidence. You will speak with Anthony, who was part of the dog rescue team of Cooper today. So not only is he a great construction guy, he's a good dog retriever as well, okay? We have Sip and Serve Waitress and Bartending Service. Elevate your next private party with the Sip and Serve Squad. Their awesome bar and wait staff will ensure your event will be unforgettable. Book now and let them handle the details while you enjoy the celebration. Call Jen at 516-528-6783. And, of course, last but not least, our beautiful New York State licensed real estate person,
Diane Keegan.
From All Island Estates Realty.
Diane Keegan.
Diane, you got it.
He had me off, though. I was off. They mute me during the things.
You don't have to mute him during the second half. Just the first half.
You never know. It's a habit. You never know. Diane Keegan.
So it's just going to come up as All Estates Realty, no name. Diane Keegan. You can call directly at 516-458-1864 or email her at diane@allislandestates.com. If you're looking to rent, sell, or buy, make Diane your first call, which you know that you always make Diane your first call.
That's correct.
And she's wonderful, and all of our advertisers are wonderful, and we appreciate them. And we appreciate you guys. We know that a lot of you were excited about tonight. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, Mikey has been hustling. He is working a gig next weekend with Steve Heitner.
With Steve Heitner.
Yeah, Steve Heitner, best well known, I guess, as Kenny Banya from Seinfeld fame. Mike's doing a gig with him, and he is coming on via Zoom from Las Vegas next Tuesday evening.
Yes.
We have gotten confirmation, which I'm not even sure if I had told you guys, just pending a date, that we will have former Yankee and former Met Todd Zeal on the show for an upcoming
very
date.
Nice.
So that's a pretty good one.
That's a good
and Nelson was terrific, just as we thought he was going to be. Really glib and personable and easy on the eye.
He's a good-looking
and
man.
handsome as the day is long. That was great. It kind of flew. Like the time got a little bit.
I forgot I'm friends with a cousin of his. I didn't even get to throw it in there, but I'll message him.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Like these celebrity guests that we have. Obviously, it's a little bit of a, we have to kind of show them that we're legitimate. They don't know us from a hole in the wall, really. Yeah. But as you could tell, I mean, he certainly was in no rush to get off right now. Yeah. Kim Jones asked to stay on longer.
Yep.
So hopefully we kind of keep on doing what we're doing here. And we appreciate you guys. Anything else you want to cover before we sign off? This is about as long as we've gone. We don't usually go this
15
long.
15 minutes over now.
But
just if anyone's still listening, Thursday night I'll be at the Maples in Manorville with our buddy George Gallo.
Oh, geez, that's going to be great.
Be a fun one. Sunday I'll be at Doc's in Island Park doing a show with our buddy Jay Nug. And
awesome.
Doc's, it's a dinner show, Sunday night dinner show.
Terrific.
So.
Awesome. And Tony, what's going on with the Knock 'em Dead comedy tour and the shows that you have and all that good stuff?
Go to knockemdeadcomedy.com to see our schedule. You can see me this Friday hosting a show in the Giggle Room.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, awesome. Very good. All right, folks, we didn't have a lot of chance to do a lot of Mikey and Mark banter tonight, which we usually give you guys a little bit of a taste of.
Yeah, we'll bring it back.
But we'll be back with banter.
Yeah, we'll come back next week.
We'll bring banter back.
Yeah, we'll bring banter and Banya. Oh, God.
That's not bad. That's not bad. Did Frank Loicano give you that line? That's good.
Exactly.
Good job, Frank. Thank God for
Thank
Frank.
you. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, awesome. I kind of don't want to go, but it's like
don't have to go.
no,
I
but
know where
it's
to
it's so cold out though.
I know. I just don't want to go outside.
It's funny.
Exactly.
Usually, when the show comes to an end, we like to hang out outside and bullshit a little bit, and we feel like we need to chit chat a little bit. We're just gonna do that now. We'll talk about all the shit.
Yeah.
We'll talk about all the shit
all
that
the people we don't like.
Right.
That
We
saw
just
last
do it.
night.
Let's
Yeah.
just do it.
Exactly.
Yeah. The Tony's right here, though.
Yeah.
Right here. All right, folks. Thank you very much. We appreciate you as always. Even though we apparently finished second in the Long Island's Best competition. And
Hopefully second. I don't even know.
we
if
don't even
finished
know.
Second.
Do you know if
we didn't finish
Did
first?
Carla win? Did you win Best Republican? Nothing.
No, I didn't get any emails.
Christ
here or
Almighty.
there. Yeah.
F that Best of Long Island bullshit.
Yeah,
What a
exactly.
fucking fraud.
Don't participate in that.
Total fucking fraud. All right, folks. Have a good night. We appreciate you.
Bye.
See ya.